Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind Podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series, Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the live Q&A with Brad Ellison. We are taking a deep dive, answering any questions you have into his 4-episode series, The Birth of a Giant, where Brad walked through his decision to walk away from his previous partnership to start his own company and the rapid growth that he has incurred in the very minimal time that he's been operating his company, and how he essentially is teaching you to do something similar. Brad, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Happy to be back. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely, brother. Let's kick this thing off with, I guess, a quick recap of the series.
Okay. So what do you want me to do? Talk to you about the first episode. So first episode is, I just kind of ran through, gave you a history on, I had been running someone else's company for a bunch of years. I didn't have a background in painting, but I had a pretty extensive background in sales and management. Ultimately, we had the goal of buying that company, and when push came to shove, for a bunch of reasons, some inside within my control and many out of my control, we decided to walk away, and launched Ellison Painting in April of this past year. So technically, we are over 1 year old now from when we filed our letter of corporation. But we sold my first job April 22nd, started production on that May 17th.
Almost coming up on that 1 year anniversary of the first sale.
That's right. And so we talked about kind of the thought process that Rachel and I went through when we were deciding whether we were actually going to move forward with the purchase or leave. What we thought was going to be our strengths in launching a new company and what were some weaknesses. That was a really fun episode. I got a lot of feedback from that one. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah, that was a tough decision. And I know when we were at Nick Slavic's Ask a Painter Live Winter Retreat, that was something you were really struggling with. You had a pretty cushy situation. You liked it. You were good at it. And starting a business is kind of not that fun sometimes.
The thought of it was not appealing to me. Like starting over from scratch. Right?
You couldn't spend the whole day at CrossFit every day, man. You had to start working for a living.
Turns out you kind of still can all day. You still can spend all day at CrossFit. As you know,
we'll talk offline about this. You can help come in and.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I committed this year to do one workout every single day for the entire year. And yesterday was day 102. So even in the first year of launching my company, I've managed to get to the gym every single day.
That's awesome. Yeah. We are going to figure out how you do that. So that was episode 1. Breaking up is hard to do. Profitable, good partnership. You had a good relationship. Ultimately, you decided to leave and do your own thing. Mm-hmm. Episode 2. What was that?
What was the title of episode 2? Remind me.
Rocket Man. What it looked like to launch a highly professionalized painting company from scratch.
Got it. So we talked about the strategy. What was our goal to launch quickly? What were our plans and how are we what were our goals and what were our plans to get there? That was a fun episode because we were really recounting that we put our feet to the fire and we put our money where our mouth is, and we really just jumped in, right? We launched as if we were a huge company, even though we were brand stinking new. That was fun. I almost said I had a unique opportunity to launch quickly the way I did just because of the tools and resources I had available. But I think as we've discovered, and the more conversations I've had with other people, everyone has access to those same resources, right? Everyone has access to marketing agencies. Everyone has access to drip jobs. Everyone has access to industry wisdom, knowledge, people. All of that is available if you know where to look. And there's people like me and you that are willing to tell people where to look to find all that info. But then it's up to them to actually follow through and do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess I would describe that as an abundance mindset, and I
Mm-hmm.
think many people in this industry obviously don't have that mindset. It's kind of one of the problems of the painting industry, but it's also one of the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities of the painting industry. Because if you go in, you're competing against med spas and you're willing to throw some money behind marketing and bet on yourself, I can tell you, so are a lot of other people that you're competing
Right.
against in painting. If you're willing to bet on yourself and invest into your online presence and do all this stuff, oh my gosh, you're an anomaly. Well, that makes things a lot easier for you.
For sure. And I say that to my customers all the time. I hear that they've had painters out and they never received the estimate, or the guy said he was going to be there at 1 o'clock and showed up at 3:30 and didn't apologize. And I tell him, like, listen, I'm not a painter by trade, but one of the reasons why I love owning a painting company is that the bar is set so low by my competition that all I have to do is show up and run my business like a real business. And I'm perceived as a superstar. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, respect your business. It is a business, and I think that can be an issue. You were kind of an outsider, Brad. You actually had a background in sales and marketing prior. I know you ran your own marketing agency for a while there prior to even going into painting. So for you, you're coming into it from a totally different mindset, and that's something Jason Phillips has talked a lot about. The painting is really the widget. What you own is the painting company, and what you are is you're selling and marketing and running a professional business. The painting's the widget.
Right. That I used to say, yeah, you know what, we are a sales and marketing company that happens to sell painting services. But I believe in the way that we set it up and the way we're operating is we're actually a project management company. So we focus heavily on sales and marketing, but we are actually providing a service. The service that we provide directly is not painting, right? We provide project management, but we're doing that at such a high level.
Yeah, you're selling the experience. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone you're selling that ease. Someone said bought the book. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know who it is because they didn't do the StreamYard instructions. Bought the book. It's actually, what do you mean? Actually full of good stuff. Reading it.
Actually
full of good. Actually, what did you think I was going to sell you something that was garbage? What is this?
Dude, you're so cynical.
I'm glad that they are actually enjoying it. I wish I knew who it was. I hope that I know them. I hope that they don't dislike me now because I said that. I am just messing with you. Okay, so that's episode 2. Episode 3, change the world from scratch. How can you build systems and processes that change the paradigm of your local market and create a roadmap for future success?
Right. So the simple answer to that is copy what other people are doing well already. Just do that, right? None of the systems that I created were revolutionary or groundbreaking or novel to the industry. I just took what I had worked at my previous company, what worked even better at other companies around the country, and implemented those. Now, what's funny is even now we're about a year in, the systems and strategies that we launched with a year ago were really designed to be managed by me and one other person. At that time, it was me and my wife, Rachel. But now we have a much bigger team. And so we're changing a lot of our systems and strategies and adapting and taking what was working and just making it a little more functional for a bigger team, which is allowing us to specialize, which, as you know, is ultimately going to be way more profitable for us.
Yeah, I think it's so important that even though you might have built those systems for the team members you had at the time, you've always had this vision in mind that you're building a company, and it's not going to be at 100,000, 500,000, not going to be at $1 million. I don't know. We can get into your ultimate goals, but I know you've mentioned numbers in the 10+ million. So you're building with that kind of end in mind of setting the infrastructure, set yourself up for success. Don't kind of start making a bunch of sales and be like, oh God.
I think the systems should be built in such a way that they're going to get you to your next goal, but they will likely change over time. So it doesn't have to be. I think it's unrealistic to build systems that a $10 million company can be run under from the get-go. No, you build a system you build systems and strategies to support growth to 1 million. And then you say, okay, now what? Now, what are the changes we need to make for the new system?
Yep. Yeah. You won't have an entire middle management layer, for example. And I think from 0 to 1, is going to change. At 1 million, you're going to change. 1 to 3, you're going to change. 3 to 10, you're going to change. And 10 and above, you're going to very much change. What got you here will not get you there, kind of thing. Jesse, always feel free to ask questions. So that's really what this is about. It's the live Q&A. You know, Brad and I are going to talk about the series, go into things. Brad will elaborate, but if you have questions, that's really what this is. So Jesse asks, if you have been growing as a business and have been doing all of your marketing, project management, and financial analytics, but are starting to grow at an overwhelming rate. Nice job, Jesse. What's the first member of your team that you would hire and why?
So we talked about this on the podcast. I would say there's two roles within a company that need to be filled, and until you're up to about $1 million worth of or $1 million per year run rate, the owner should be doing both, and that's the sales role and the project management role. Now you might hire marketing agencies and you might have software tools to help you do some of the tasks within those roles, but those are the two roles that need to be there. So what we talked about on the podcast, if you remember, Brandon, was you pick which one that you're best at and you want to do more, and then you hire out the other one. So for me, project management is not a strength of mine. The organization piece is not mine. I'm great at customer service. I can certainly, console an upset customer better than anyone. But as far as scheduling jobs, getting them kicked off, doing all the billing, invoicing, material tracking, those are all things that I'm absolutely terrible at and have no desire to learn to be better. What I'm really good at is sales. So for me, it was focused on sales. Second role, it would be project manager. Might be different for any other individual.
And you're saying that from 0 to 1 million, even if you don't like the project management role, you should be doing both those things.
To $1 million run rate. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And so what we did is I when we launched, I already planned on being at $1 million run rate plus right from the get-go, which is why I started day one with me as sales and then a second person as a project manager. But people that are slowly growing, maybe they're at 300,000, they're at 500,000. Unless you have plans and a marketing budget that are going to help you to get to that $1 million run rate right now, you probably can't afford to bring on a project manager or a salesperson. Would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah. You don't want to sink yourself. The number one reason small businesses go out of business is cash flow constraints.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to look into obviously how you're charging for your projects. People try to sometimes create a competitive differentiation for themselves by not accepting any money down. Well, as you're growing and you're small, that might be a bad move. Maybe that's something you can do kind of down the future.
Yeah, though I say the taking money down, we're a cash flow positive business. Every job should be cash flow positive, right? Even the very first one you do. And the length of time from the time you sell a job to when it's completed shouldn't really be that long, especially when you're starting. So if you start a company like I did from actual scratch, I sold a job and then you start it the next week, right? Yeah. So do I need that deposit? Probably not, because within 2 weeks, I know that the job's done. I'm getting paid.
Yeah, those jobs are pretty short. It's not a huge commercial project, which no one really.
But there is, for some companies, there is a big advantage to taking deposits and having that cash flow available. We just do a $500 deposit. And the reason why I do $500 is just to have some skin in the game for them. Because what I found at my last company was we were oftentimes the most expensive, and people would say yes to us, but there was no deposit. And so they'd start shopping around, and we would lose a lot of jobs because they were kept looking. Why wouldn't they? They said we could paint their house, but they didn't have any. It wasn't like they could lose that $500 if they changed their mind.
Yep. Yeah. Once people commit to that, then they're pretty locked in. Mm-hmm. Won't get the buyer's remorse or whatever that would technically be defined as. By the way, when Brad's saying run rate, he means $83,000 a month. So that's $1 million run rate. So if you're making $83,000 a month, then that's the rate that he's talking about. And he's able to get there fast because he was already investing into his site, investing into how he was going to get those initial leads before he actually launched. Obviously, most of you listening probably already have your painting company, but the concept is similar about investing kind of before, marketing investment. That's a leading indicator of success. You put the money in and you get the money kind of a little bit down the line. Mm-hmm. Pay that faster. Obviously depends on your strategy.
That's right.
Okay. So that was episode 3, Change the World. Hi, Kaylin. Good to see you again. Episode 4, Don't Stop Me Now. What does it look like to not only grow a business, but scale a business? Is there such a thing as too soon?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to find out, Brandon, because we are right there. we
all burned down or not?
We launched quickly. We ended up closing the end of the year The goal was to do $1 million worth of revenue in our first 12 months. Well, we sold our first job April 22nd. We started producing it on May 17th. Just did my taxes for 2022. And for that year, we produced $1,013,000 worth of jobs.
And that's awesome.
So we did over $1 million in that first, whatever, eight months or whatever. Yeah. So we beat our goal. If you talk to a bunch of people that are smarter than me, they will tell you that it's very difficult to go from 0 to 1 million in the painting business, but probably even more difficult to go from 1 million to say 3 million. Because you have to start adding a lot of overhead in the form of salespeople and project managers and admin and probably office space and vehicles and increased marketing spend and whatever. Well, that's our goal for this year, is to try to do $3 million worth of revenue, not sales necessarily, just like actual revenue. And in order to do that, I had to put my money where my mouth is. And so we hired salespeople and project managers and admins. So now I'm still running. I do about half the estimates. I have a second salesperson that now is out in the field and closing deals and doing a really, really great job. We had my full-time project manager, Ron, who replaced my wife back in October. So he's been with me about 6 months now, and he's like my right-hand man. He is the yin to my yang. He's more risk averse. He is probably more serious than I am, which is maybe a nice balance. And so he's been really instrumental in helping us to build systems in order to grow. But he's got a capacity too. Kind of industry benchmark would be $1.5 million in sales per salesperson, $1.5 million per projects being managed by each project manager. So we have a second project manager starting on Monday. Also hired an admin. We call her a project coordinator because she's a lot more than an admin. She's handling scheduling of all the estimates. She's now handling initial scheduling of the projects themselves. She has experience and skills in graphic design. So she's like our graphic designer now too. She's doing like a ton of things. But all that to say, we added a lot of overhead that I can't justify right now. Right. We have about $400,000 worth of exterior jobs sold, and we just started painting outside this week. So we have about a month. That should be about 4 weeks worth of work to keep all the crews busy that we've onboarded. But outside of that, like I don't have enough leads coming in really to need 2 sales guys. I don't have enough projects really to need 2 project managers, but I know that if we want even a prayer at hitting 3 million, I have to have those in place. So we spent, and this is the first time, apart from that initial 20,000 that we dipped when we first launched, this is the first time that the company financially is going backwards. Coming out of interior season, we're spending a lot in marketing. We probably dipped about $60,000 in the past 3 weeks. So it's an investment. I understand that. I've had to have a couple pep talks with people that I know and love. I was on the phone with Jason Paris yesterday. Like, I'm like, hey man, I need you to tell me whether this is like really good, the decisions that I'm making are really good and wise, or that I'm being an idiot and I just need to go backwards. And he's like, no. He's like, if you really want to grow, you basically have to do these things, and you are the primary investor. You just need to be monitoring your sales and your production and say, okay, is this investment worth it? You're the investor. And if the investment's not worth it, then you might have to change your strategy. And that might mean scaling back the people you have on board. Or you just keep pushing harder and sell what else you got to do to sell more jobs. So we're moving forward in faith, my man.
I love Jason's perspective. He's always looking at it like almost like a private equity investor or something, very business oriented. I know you got mad at me yesterday, Brad, so I'm just going to publicly just bring it out. I said Jason Phillips is my favorite podcast guest. I did say that.
You did say that.
Yeah, I did say it in episode 6. I love all my podcast guests. I love you, Brad. You've been on many things, buddy. But I was very into the moment. I did say that, but I love everybody. So
just own it. Jason Phillips, if you're gonna have a favorite podcast guest, is incredible. Is he a bad guy to have to be your favorite? He's a phenomenal human being.
He did a 7-episode series. So we were supposed to do a 6.
Oh, dang.
And
dude.
then, we were supposed to do a 6. And then I Well, he kept dropping stuff about his sales process. So we'd be
Mhm.
talking about something totally unrelated, and he would say something like it was no big deal. And I was like, well, Jason, you did it to yourself again, because now we're going to go down like this 15-minute rabbit hole that you don't want to go on. And I can see he kind of almost visibly gets nervous sometimes, because now I'm taking him in a totally different direction. I'm like, dude, stop saying interesting stuff if you don't want that to happen. So we did episode 7 was all about, hey, what's your sales process?
Love that.
Because I want to know it. Yeah.
Love
I want to know it. I can ask what I want to know, and then other people get to benefit.
I see a comment here, and again, I can't see who said it, but he said, when we were talking about my business going backwards, they said, I see mine going backwards for the first time in 5 years as well. It's hard and playing with my mind and emotions. Whoever that is, are you, or like geographically, where are you located? Are you located in northern state, southern state? Is seasonality an issue for you? Answer that question, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I wanna bring up one other thing too, Brad, because I know you were very open in your series, about people contacting you about wanting to share, and then you got kind of flooded because your series was a very popular one. A lot of people listened to it, and you kind of came back to me and let me know you got a lot of phone calls now. What were some of the common questions, the common conversations that you were having with people?
People have a lot of questions about how to find and onboard subcontractors. How do you find them? And of course, I've shared that. I use the Facebook group. I use my Sherwin-Williams rep, which has been, those leads are always really good because they're pre-screened, right? My Sherwin rep's not going to refer a crew over to me that he thinks is not going to be reliable or high quality. But really, once the ball starts rolling, painters know painters. And what we've been focusing on this year is we came out of last year with, 7 or 8 solid, consistent crews that we were using. Of those 8, 4 of them are just absolute superstars. Like, man, I wish I could clone these guys. Well, that's what we're doing this year. We're cloning them. And what I mean by that is, we said, hey, Robert and Bazzo, you guys are the best. We love you. We will feed you unlimited amount of jobs. If you want to bring on 2 or 3 more painters, and now you either have a team of 6 or 2 teams of 3, you will be prioritized 100%. And so now those guys are like, all right, well, we love working with Ellison Painting. We're making all this money. It's really easy. The work's not easy, but it's easy. The relationship's easy. Now Robert and Bazzo are bringing on more guys. So that's now we're dealing with Robert and Bazzo, who we already knew. We're not having to try out new subcontractors, but now through them, we've doubled their workforce. And if we can do that with 3 or 4 crews, bingo, bango. But we also did a huge recruiting push. I think we interviewed like 15 or 20 new crews, and we're entering the spring with 20 compliant and active subcontractor crews / crew leaders. That equates to like 50 something painters that we could have working for us on any given day. So yeah, that was the main question, was subcontract, how to find subcontractors. People asked about my sales process, which is actually changing. We're now doing in-home presentations. Wah, wah, wah.
Was it all virtual before?
No, we would go and we'd meet the customer and everything, but then we would just email the estimate, the proposal by the end of the day. But now we're actually meeting with the customer, going back to our vehicle, piecing everything together, going back in the house and presenting it to them.
Well, that's what my favorite guy does. Jason
Who's
Phillips
that?
does that. Jason,
yeah. All the best guys do. That's why I knew. I'm like, listen, I'm having great success doing it the way I do it because it's me and I can do it. But if I need to train new salespeople, if I want to not be the guy selling all the time, then I need to have an actual sales process. So we're doing that. And my new sales guy hasn't started doing in-home presentations because I'm still double checking all his numbers before he sends the estimate over. But he's closing already like 1 out of 3 without doing an in-home presentation, which is very promising, which means he's building rapport and he's providing value without doing that. My in-home presentation, so we just started doing them this week, and really I've only done 3, and I'm 3 for 3. All 3 said yes right there on the spot. Yeah. Okay. So whoever this was said northwest suburbs of Chicago.
Hold on, Brad. I believe that's Justin with Allegiant Painting, but I'm going to look for a confirmation on that.
Okay, cool. Justin. Great. So Justin, if that's you, I think, so I can't compare what I did last year compared to what the market looks like this year because I didn't have a last year at Ellison Painting. What I hear from a lot of people is that a lot of people are having a harder time selling, that the average job size now is smaller. Maybe people are taking longer to make decisions. Coming out of the winter, obviously, we always slow down. And then if you're in Chicago, you know it's going to pick up if you focus on exterior jobs. I think that we need to it's Brian Maddie.
Oh.
I don't know if I know Brian.
I think I know Brian either. Hi, Brian.
Well, regardless, those of us that want to grow our business, even through what could be a challenging season or summer or year, we need to really hone in our messaging, our marketing, our sales process. If we can do that, we will be able to outcompete and out hustle the people that aren't going to make the changes and adapt. So things can go backwards for a period of time, but I would say you need to have a plan. How long can it go backwards before it now becomes an issue for you? And what are your plans? If you don't think it's just a seasonal or cyclical thing, what are your plans to reverse it so that you're moving forward again?
Brad, when you're growing and you hit the million and then you invest more heavily with the goal of the 3 million, and then you're probably going to do something similar again with the goal of like the 5 or the 10 million. What is your thought on liquidity in terms of how much money you should have in the bank or what kind of run rate you should give yourself?
So I haven't settled on a number. Through Q1, we stayed static. We didn't profit at all. We didn't lose at all. I paid myself my small salary, and there was no profit in the business. But through that, I think we had about $150,000 in our business checking account, right? Well, now we're actually losing money, so it's dropping down. One of the topics of conversation with Jason Paris yesterday was business line of credit, and he said you should apply for a business line of credit when you don't need it. So if you ever need it, you already have it. Because once you need it, no bank obviously is going to open up that line of credit for you. And he also said, hey, even if you have the money to use in your business checking account, could you be using that money somewhere else that's going to be getting you a better return than the 6% or so that you're going to pay in interest on that business line of credit? The answer to that is probably, yeah. If that frees up my cash to spend more in marketing or hire another really top line sales guy, then yeah, I'm going to get more than 6% back. So I just scheduled an appointment with my banker at Chase to open up that line of credit. I don't know yet whether I'm going to use it or not. But it'll be nice knowing that if I need to, I can, or I can just keep my cash liquid and use the line of credit basically to function.
Yeah, having access to that working capital is very important. You never really know 100% what's going to happen. What if you get sued or something, right? You never know. So Heidi, what kind of question is this, Heidi? I know you're a go-getter. You're doing everything. So Heidi and I have been in touch. She said, how do you get away with not being a morning person? But I know Heidi is very much getting after it.
I met Heidi. Heidi came over to my house for the gathering of Michigan painters. We got to meet in person. I would say, how do I get away with not being a morning person? Why do you need to be a morning person? Your customers don't want you at the house at 6 a.m. And I don't want to get up and go to the gym at 6 a.m. My alarm goes off every day at 7, and I get up, and the first thing I do, I put on my glasses so I can see, and then I go make my daughter's lunch, and I help her to brush her teeth and get ready for school, and then I get myself ready, and then I'm out the door, and I'm out the door by 7:45 every day.
That's efficient.
It is. Well,
like an hour and a half.
I don't want to. You got to waste time. Yell at the kids. I think my daughter probably thinks the only word I know in the morning is let's hustle. Come on, hustle.
Yeah,
hustle.
Very efficient kids.
But the real answer is, I make the most of the time that I'm working, and then I make the most of the time that I'm not working. And I don't think you need to be a morning person to be productive. From 8:30, I basically work from 8:30 to 2:30 every day. And then I'm at the gym every day for the 3:30 class. And then I'm home by 5 and family time. Maybe after the kids go to sleep, if I have some follow-up emails or estimates to send out, I'll do that. But
so Chris has asked, I like these last two questions a lot. Guys, if you have questions, put them in there. Is it harder to have a consistent brand while using subs?
Is it harder? Yeah. Is it hard? I would say not if you're doing it right. So the way we operate is me and my project managers and sales guys, we all have our branded vehicles. This is Ellison Painting. Every one of our jobs has Ellison Painting signs out front. We have Ellison Painting shirts that our subcontractors, we ask very nicely for them to wear. Can't make them, of course, but most of them will play ball. But more importantly, the contact that our customers are having is primarily with an Ellison Painting employee. That's the project manager. The project manager is my face once the job is sold. So, can you maintain a consistent brand? I'd say, yeah. All of our marketing is very consistent. All of our job sites are very consistent. I don't think you would see a difference between the brand if I was using employees versus subcontractors. I can't imagine what that difference would look like.
When
Apart from employees sometimes work more slowly. My subs hustle. They want to make money. They know they're getting paid, $8,000 for this project, whether it takes them 3 days or 8 days. And so they're incentivized to get it done quickly, efficiently, and at a high quality level, so they don't have to go back. So I would say the big difference is that we are consistently faster and more efficient than a company that uses employees.
And you have a pretty deliberate interview process with your subs. You want to kind of quickly run through that? Because obviously starting with a good crew is pretty integral to this whole thing.
So what's the question?
Essentially, I know you've walked through kind of your process, right? You talked about finding subcontractor crews, but I know you have certain criteria. You have a certain method to the way that you hire them, vet them. You typically start them on a certain kind of project prior to moving to another kind of project. I think that all plays into them actually, for me, that question is, hey, how do you make sure they don't screw up your brand, like by being bad?
Yeah. So I think to go back to Chris's question real quick, I don't think it's hard to maintain a consistent brand. I think it's way more difficult to maintain a consistent culture if you're using subcontractors, right? Employees are coming to your shop. They are managed by your foreman. And your crew leaders. It's all your company all the time. The culture can be tough, but that's why when I'm interviewing these subcontractors, that's what I'm trying to identify. Do I think that they're a good culture fit for how we operate? Are they a good person? Did they show up on time for our interview? Did they seem like they're telling the truth or just, kind of sticking their feathers out and bragging to make themselves look bigger or better? If someone's a good person, and I think that the culture fits, meaning they seem to have high integrity, they do want to operate professionally, they believe in fairness, they believe in merit-based opportunities, then I don't know that there's any real effective way to vet them further than that, because you can't really tell the quality of their work until they actually start out one of your jobs. And so it's important when we assign the first job that we're paying a little bit more, a little bit closer attention to what they're doing on the job site as it's kicking off. But one of the things you mentioned, Brandon, is yes, we do look at the first job that we're going to give them. We're looking for long-term relationships with our subcontractors. And until they start working with us, they don't know that I'm any different than any other contractor they've ever worked for, right? Everyone tell them, yes, we're going to pay you on time. We are going to pay you well. Our jobs are great. This is going to be easy. Everyone tells them the exact same thing. And it turns out every contractor is a liar, right? And they've all been burned before. They all have not been paid before. They were all promised something and then not given that. Well, until they actually start working with us, they don't know that I'm any different. So the first job has to be a good one. It can't be some nightmare customer. It can't be a job where there might be a bunch of things that make it less profitable or take too long. We got to give them a real home run and make sure they see how we operate, because they're going to be experiencing two things during that first job. One is how well we pay on these jobs, but two, how we operate, how we communicate with them, and the efficiency there. Well, we can obviously control fully how we operate and how we communicate. But if we give them a bad job, we give them a customer that we should have identified right from the get-go was going to be a headache. That's a loss, because now, even though we weren't lying to them, we didn't really do anything. It seems like the job was a failure and it wasn't their fault. And it wasn't. It was our fault for not prepping it right. So yeah, it's important. You just try to find subcontractors that are decent people, that will communicate well, that will follow through on what they say they're going to do. And then you just got to give them a shot and make sure you're looking over their shoulder for the first few jobs a little more closely. But then what we found is that once a crew has done a few jobs with us, and they see how we operate and they see how profitable it is, now they've been incentivized to continue to do really high quality, solid work for us. They want us to be happy, because if we're not going to keep giving them work, and they want more work.
It's basically almost like a probationary period or something for
us,
an employee.
For us too, though. We need to be on our best behavior in the first few jobs, because if we do something that rubs them the wrong way or makes them think that we are just like every other company, then we've lost the long-term potential to work with them.
Guys, we're just past the halfway mark of the live Q&A. I want to do something I haven't done before, because I want to get a gauge. And I never ask people when we're doing these Q&As, like, who actually listened. So if you could put in listened or didn't listen, that I would just be curious about that. And then if obviously a lot of people, we put up these recordings in the Facebook group. We do a push out to our network. So a lot of people listen to this as a recording. If you can put up live or recording, it would just be great to get a metric on kind of how people are listening and how they're coming into this. There was another really interesting question, which is funny. It's funny because my wife and I have actually had similar discussions regarding painter marketing pros. What is the rush to grow that fast? Wouldn't maintaining a profit throughout your scaling make more sense?
Why you got to come at me like that?
Why are you so aggressive, man?
So first thought, we've maintained profit. 2022, even though I left my last company and started a new one, was personally for me and Rachel, our best financial year ever. So we are profitable. We weren't profitable through Q1, though most companies around here that operate like we do, even my last company, we never had any profit in Q1. And actually talking to Jason Paris yesterday, he said Paris Painting has never profited in Q1. And oftentimes they lose like $1 million in Q1. And then it's not until middle of the summer that they're actually profitable. So yes, maintaining a profit is important. And that's certainly one of our core focuses. Our goals this year are $3 million at 15% net profit. And that when we go through our EOS process and just revamped our VTO and did our quarterly meeting, that is the goal, is to maintain a profit. So the rush to grow so fast. This is interesting that you asked this, because Rachel and I just had a conversation this week about it. And we kind of already touched on it now. Ron and I could have maintained Ellison Painting at $1.5 million this year, and it would have been relatively easy. I just go sell all the jobs, and he manages all the jobs, and maybe we have an admin to help in a few areas, and we could have just stayed at $1.5 million, maybe grown a little bit, just the two of us. There's simplicity in that for sure, but the jump in order to go from $1.5 million to $3 million, I think is going to be way easier than going from 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3. Once I'm over 1.5 million, a project manager can't handle it. And maybe a sales guy can't sell all that themselves. So I already have to hire someone else. Well, now I've added $500,000 in revenue, but I've also taken on one other full role that's going to be costly. So rather than scaling slowly like that, let's just swing for the fences. Let's go from 1.5 to 3 million. I think it's actually, I know from the outside, it probably feels rushed, but it's a strategic decision. Because we did $1 million last year, but our run rate was really 1.5, right? So we're doubling our operation. We'll hopefully triple our actual revenue calendar year, but double our production or our kind of pace. So is there a rush? I don't know. It seems, based on everything that I've spoken about with industry experts, from 0 to 1, 1.5, 1.5 to 3, 3 to 5. Those are the kind of the natural plateaus. Well, I'd rather just get to the 3 million right away and then figure out how to get to 5 million after that.
So Brad, I want to ask you a question that seems simple, but it's actually kind of a nerve-wracking question for a lot of people because they will oftentimes people have goals that are more ambitious than what they're willing to share because they might think, it kind of goes back to being a kid. Everyone's going to laugh at me if I say what I want. I've talked with painting company owners. They want to get north of 100 million, right? But publicly, maybe they're talking about 10 million. So what is your goal? Are you willing to say what your goal is and why do you have that goal?
Yeah. So we follow the EOS, the traction process, right? It's something that's been really helpful for us in game planning and strategy and systems and structure and all that. Our 3-year, I can never remember if it's 3-year plan. Is it 3-year plan?
It's a 3-year plan. Yep.
$6 million in revenue for Ellison Painting here in Metro Detroit. 10-year vision is 20 million in revenue. And that's also the current plan is to have Ellison Painting branches in other major metropolitan cities. So, geographically, if we're looking there, it makes most sense to do. I've talked about Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati and maybe Chicago and Indianapolis and start kind of taking over the Midwest region. I don't know. During our quarterly meeting, we talked about the revenue number. The revenue number to me doesn't really matter. What matters is that me and the people that I'm working with are all having the time and money we need to be for our family. And that the painters that are continuing to work with us are also enjoying the fruits of working with Ellison Painting. So they're making not only a living wage, but they're making like a thriving wage and the type of money that's really going to change their family legacy as well. So, that could mean we get to 6 million and that's it. And 6 million is a sweet spot for us. And we just keep doing that and just keep becoming better and better at what we're doing. Maybe we say, 6 million feels good, but if we get to 10 million, then think about the other opportunities that's going to provide for other people that aren't already working with us. 100 million. I don't know. Could we be $100 million company? Wouldn't that be fun? I don't know. Right.
It would be something.
It'd be something. I don't know. What I battle, totally transparently is, do I have the skill set to manage a $6 million, $10 million, $100 million company? I don't know. Maybe. I think I'm a pretty bright and pretty capable guy. Maybe there's probably people that are way better leaders than I am, way better creator of leaders than I am. And maybe I transition into a different role where, I don't know, maybe I spend more time working on the PCA or just traveling around the country to our different locations and, just being like the pep up guy. And we have someone else as a CEO to really facilitate the growth. I don't know.
You could be the meme guy.
Could be the meme guy
and like really focus on memes a lot.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, I really, really love what we're doing. I love the painting industry. I love my company. I love the people that are working with me. I want to find more people like the people that are working with me and just keep growing. And I think we'll keep doing that until we decide we don't want to. And then either plateau or do something else. I don't know.
So this one, I'm not sure I fully understand what the question is, but after painting for 17 years, I went off on my own in 2017. Has anyone had a 5-year business dip year or a level out year? So I guess that's the question. 2017 to 20 growth years and added painters each year. By 2021, we hit 1 million in revenue and grabbed an office. Now in 2022, have 3 vans, 7 painters, an office manager and myself, and we completed 900K. But now the 5th year, the myth year, is I guess a struggle year, but still going strong with jobs, but profit is a little down, but not as much as last year. It might have been cut off after that, but essentially this business dip year, the 5th year, the 5th myth year.
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard of that myth year. Have you heard of that?
I have not. No.
Well, I would say it's still early. It's still early in the year, right? It's April. We finished Q1, but that still means there's 3 more quarters left to rally. And I think that there was a lot of worry about the economy, and I just don't. Again, I don't have the data to compare directly to last year. The number of estimates we were giving versus what we're given now, or the average job size now compared to last year. But I can tell you that we're still doing estimates and people are still saying yes. I mean, in March, I sold $175,000 worth of paint jobs in like a struggling economy during the winter. So I don't know. I don't know that I believe in that. It sounds like I know a lot of people hit roadblocks for themselves where now they've been doing the same. This person's been painting for 17 years. Now they're 5 years into their own business. That's 22 years. And I bet things are not always as exciting and motivating as they could be. So I would look inside there and see, well, is there something that you're doing differently, something you could be doing differently to kind of reignite that spark? But also it's early in the year. Reevaluate your marketing, where your leads coming from, how much you spending, what's working, what's not, shift some dollars around. If you're not doing in-home presentations, maybe start doing that. If you're not presenting like super professionalized estimates using something like Drip Jobs or Jobber or something like that, take this as an opportunity to make some of those strategic changes that'll help you close more deals and sell more jobs.
Yeah. And I know I've spoken with some companies that are finding the market's changed a little bit for them. They're finding some of the deals that they would have closed. Sounds like you're not struggling with that, Brad, but some of the ones they're finding are a little more price sensitive. So I think Brad's point's a really good one. You have to give people a reason to pay more money and still close, right? So you need to decommoditize your business. I think the in-home presentation, presenting value-oriented sales process, a consultative sales process. Don't show, hey, we paint good. We paint the best. We're not going to buy on that, right? When they start to value their dollars more highly, you better give them a reason. It's about getting the right lead through the door and then giving them a reason to pay you more money. It's just it's those two things. Heidi said saying goals. I think this was about kind of what your end goal is and why. Saying goals out loud helps with accountability. I love that. If you don't want to say it out loud, you might be doubting you can do it. Be confident. If you fall short, refine and go again. Heidi's stories is amazing, and I think those words are really true.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that we can do 3 million. I don't know that we will. And that was Rachel's question to me during our conversation. Well, what happens if we don't do 3 million? Say, well, we're still going to be profitable. We still will have made money. It's not like now we're $300,000 in the hole. If we sell 2.5 million instead of 3 million, we'll produce 2.5 million at a 15% net profit. Rachel and I maybe won't make as much money, but the company's fine and we're still highly profitable.
Yeah. So with all the people that were calling you, I know that a lot of them were asking about subcontractor crews. You had some pretty common themes. Did you identify any, I guess, mistakes or any sort of, I guess, like logical fallacies, like flaws in the way that they're thinking that might be industry wide, whereas you might be thinking a little bit differently? Because I know that success really starts with the mindset.
So a lot of these people who I was talking to were younger men who were trying to launch the business. Maybe it was their dad's company and they've come on board, or maybe they're just, they're trying to start a company and do what, I guess what I'm doing. They're spending a lot of time listening to podcasts. They're spending a lot of time reading books and talking to guys like me, but they're not actually doing anything. And it's like they're so paralyzed because they don't feel like they know exactly what they should be doing or exactly how to do it, that they're not doing anything. And so I actually spoke to this guy yesterday, and he told me that he's got his dad and his brother and one other guy are painting, and he's not painting. I said, okay, so you're just doing like estimates and project management. Yes. Okay. Well, how many hours a week are you working? Like, how many estimates are you doing? He said, I probably do like 2 or 3 estimates a week. And I probably work like, I don't know, an hour and a half or 2 hours a day. I said, what are you doing with the rest of your time? He goes, well, I'm trying to learn a lot. Like, learning doesn't do anything for you if there's no action. You're way better off doing something without knowing what you're doing rather than knowing what you're doing, but not actually doing it. Right. Yep. And so I'm like, bro, when we hang up on this call, he had actually ordered a ton of door hangers, but didn't have anyone to deliver them. Said, when we get off this call, you need to grab a stack of those door hangers and go to a neighborhood that you want to paint in and start knocking on doors saying, hey, my name is Brad. I'm the owner of Ellison Painting. We have painted a lot of houses in this area. When was the last time you painted your house? I'd be happy to give you an estimate, whether right now, since I'm here already, or if you want to schedule a different time. Is that something you'd be interested in? What else are you going to do with your time? He didn't want to spend a bunch of money in marketing because obviously they're not making a bunch of money. So he didn't have a bunch of money to spend. Like, you got to do something with your time. And so that's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is they are growth minded, right? They have goals and they have visions of what their company could be, but they're not taking any of the actual steps to get there. When I went and filmed that reality show this past summer, one of the things that Wes spoke on, which I bring up all the time, is this idea of an MVP, a minimum viable product. And that means once you have something to sell, you just start selling it. And it can continue to, and it can and should continue to get better as you refine your process, as you refine your service and your product or whatever. But once you have something to sell that has any value, you go out and you start selling it and then make it better as you go. And a lot of entrepreneurs get paralyzed because they think that their product, their service, their brand, their company needs to be totally perfect before they show the world. And then they end up spending 5 or 6 months perfecting it. And then they start and they realize they don't know what the hell they're doing anyway. And it's this slow ramp up period anyway. Well, if you started 6 months ago, where would you be right now? Be 6 months ahead. You'd have 6 months worth of sales. You would have 6 months worth of mistakes that you learned from that you're that much further ahead. So I talk to a lot of people who, and I don't want to sound like jerk, but like, they talk a big game. They say they want to do these things, but they're not actually doing anything. And that's one of the things that Rachel and I did effectively. Said, you know what? We're going to launch this company, and here's our vision, and here's our strategy. And then we just freaking did it. We just did it. Spent the money. I did the estimates. I found the subs. We produced the jobs. We collected the money. We reinvested. And here we are a year later.
Yep.
Got to do it.
A lot of people struggle with paralysis by analysis. I can tell you for me, I knew I had content to put out. So I did a webinar series with the PCA like 2 years ago or something. Did a live webinar series. 1 to 3 people would show up. I did series for a year. 1 to 3 people would show up, right? The content was good, but nobody showed up. So then, I mean, that's kind of embarrassing, right? Doing an hour-long webinar, nobody ever comes, but I did it every single month. Now, this last year, Painter Marketing Mastermind Podcast, I mean, I think we had hundreds of thousands of streams, but I just kept showing up. So the process by analysis, trying to perfect it, work on it in the lab. Then when you go out, you're gonna get knocked in the teeth anyways. So
and the best part about what you did is you got those reps in, and you made all those mistakes when no one was watching anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's
brilliant.
Right.
Now you got hundreds of thousands of people watching, and you've had 2 years now of really figuring out how to do it well.
Yeah, and it's kind of doing it in the laboratory and then rolling it out. It doesn't work. It's what everyone wants to do. It doesn't work. You should be educating yourself. Listen, but you need to do nothing. Nothing trumps action.
That's the pep talk that I gave my sales guy yesterday. As I mentioned, he's already doing a great job. He's selling jobs. But I said, hey, you have to start doing in-home presentations starting next week. And I want you to understand that you are going to make some glorious mistakes. You are really going to screw something up big. Okay. And that's okay. Like nothing that you screw up can't be fixed or addressed or adjusted. So I gave him the freedom to like, just freaking swing for it.
Yeah.
Right. It's okay. I know that you're going to make a mistake. You think that maybe you won't, but you absolutely will. So just go do it. Let's get the mistakes out of the way and continue to get better.
You have to have fun with it. You have to be willing to laugh at yourself. Things become a whole lot easier when you
Did you know that one of our 5 core values at Ellison Painting is levity? Have we talked about that before?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So levity is basically just not taking things too seriously, having fun. And we, the team that I have between my sales guy, Ron, my project manager, Veronica, my admin, we laugh a lot. We make jokes at each other's expense, and we just don't take things too seriously, so that when we run into issues with the company, like, don't get me wrong, obviously we take our business seriously, we take our job seriously, but we run a painting company. It's not an emergency room, right? There's no real painters and painting emergency. So we can have fun. And I think we portray that with the customer. When I'm out doing an estimate, it's pretty lighthearted. I'm making jokes. The video that gets sent out about what to expect when you show up for an estimate is pretty lighthearted. I got a couple jokes in there, just like, hey, this is our culture. We want to have fun. We're going to take your job seriously. We're going to do a great job, but we're going to have fun doing it as well. So
it's a cool video. Don't you have like a little subtitle being like, "This is my friend"? Like in parentheses.
Yeah. Said, no, I don't normally hug my customers when I show up for an estimate, but this is my best friend Phil. He agreed to be in the video. But you know what? If you want a hug when I get there, you let me know. I'll give you one.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I wanna touch on one more big point before we kind of start wrapping up here, because one of the things that you had talked about in the podcast series, which I think is really important, is the advantages and potentially disadvantages you had going into this. And I think obviously someone can't just fabricate all their advantages, but I think understanding it can help people be more strategic in their approach.
Mm-hmm. So you want me to talk about my advantages and disadvantages?
Yeah, just because I think it's a lot of people don't even fully recognize their own strengths and weaknesses, and that self-awareness is important with the company.
So advantages, we talked about the money that Rachel and I had been saving that we had at our disposal. Advantages were my nearly 2 decades of sales and management experience. I had made myself kind of a public figure within the industry, so it allowed me to find subcontractors. Ultimately, it allowed me to find people that wanted to work for me, like on the sales side too, right? They listen to my podcasts before they interviewed with me, and like, oh, seems like a guy that I want to work with, or a company that I want to work with. Disadvantages: I'm not a painter. I have to rely on other people to actually produce the service that we are selling. Disadvantages was starting from scratch. I was worried that it's because we had no real reputation, no reviews, that it'd be really hard to sell a bunch of jobs. Turns out that's a lie. You can sell jobs without any reviews. The more you get, the more it helps, but you don't need them to start.
And you don't have to charge bottom of the barrel prices either. I want to put that in. You weren't charging.
Oh, for sure. I started out charging more than I was charging at my last company, and people were still saying yes, right?
Because I'm providing sales process.
Yep, and I'm selling them the experience, the Ellison painting experience. But also in retrospect, and in line with some of what we're talking about here, one big advantage I have is maybe my enormous ego. It's like I really believe that we collectively can create the greatest painting company in America. Like, I fully believe that Ellison Painting could be the absolute best. Could be also the biggest, who knows? But I really believe that we can do that. Now, I might be wrong, but even if I'm wrong and we end up the 100th most professional painting company in America, guess what? We are doing pretty darn well. But the fact that I believe that we really can be the absolute best allows me and equips me to take the risks and make the decisions that I make in hiring and spending and everything else that goes along with pretty explosive growth. So some people don't have that self-confidence. Some people don't have that belief in themselves or their ability. Find someone that does. Find someone like me that doesn't know anything about painting, but knows about business and is great at sales, and bring them on board. I'd say being a 50-50 partner in a $2 million a year company is way better than being the sole owner of a $250,000 a year company. If you want to have a big painting company, that is. Some people just want to run a $250,000 company and they thrive there, and it's awesome, and that's a big success. But if you really want to grow, have the self-awareness to know whether you are actually the person that's going to be able to do it. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to have enough self-awareness that maybe I'm the guy that can get us to 3 million, but I'm not the guy that can get us to 5 or 6 million. I don't know yet, but I need to be aware of whether I am the guy or not.
I will say this is something my wife and I actually have talked about pretty extensively back when we were starting our entrepreneurial journey. I had a lot of doubts. I used to view entrepreneurs, successful business owners as kind of like a myth. Like, man, that girl, they have something I don't have. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I don't actually have to believe in myself. I just have to keep doing it. And so I think the belief in yourself basically means that you don't stop. I think that's really the key principle, though, is you don't stop no matter what. Even if you don't believe in yourself, just continue to march in the right direction, doubting yourself the whole time. And eventually it's going to work out.
Yeah. When someone says, well, I'm scared of failing, say, okay, well then don't stop. If you haven't, if you haven't stopped, then you haven't failed. Just keep going. Right.
Only way you fail is if you quit, and you will not quit.
Right. Or people that are afraid of starting over. Well, then don't quit. If you don't quit, you don't have to start over.
Brad, we are about at our time. I appreciate your time, man. Wrapping up an amazing podcast series with you. Do you have anything else you want to impart before we wrap this up?
Not in particular. I do want to stress, like, what we're doing at Ellison Painting, I want to acknowledge is pretty rare and pretty special. I never wanted the series to be like, I don't want it to seem easy. And I don't want to give people the impression that literally anyone can do this. I'm not saying that I'm something special, but what Ellison Painting is super special. And I want it to be an encouragement. I want people to look at what I'm doing and inspire them. Maybe not to do exactly what I'm doing, but to make some changes to facilitate the growth that they might want within their business in some way. I don't know. I feel weird. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel weird. Like we're painting this picture of that anyone can just start a company from scratch and do what I did. And
well, it's simple, but it's not easy.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's simple. It's not easy. And a lot of people are not willing to take the risks and make the sacrifices that we make. So certainly I hope that someone does it bigger and better than me. But the reality is most people are not going to do this. And that's okay. Running a different version of a different company should be viewed as equally successful, right?
Yeah.
It's not all about explosive growth. It's not all about huge numbers. For me, that's what I'm aiming for. But success is not purely defined by numbers and financial growth.
And there's something Brad and I are both passionate about. Obviously, we're both big advocates for the PCA. We're on several committees for the PCA. But this is a tried and true, proven business model. You have access to Brad. You have access to all these heavy hitters who know what they're doing. So don't go it alone. I mean, that's where it's simple but not easy. That's where it exactly is. You can go get all the answers you need, but at the end of the day, you are still going to have to execute. Mm-hmm. So, Brad, thank you for your time. If you have questions, if you're not in the podcast group already, probably most of you are, you can always tag Brad with questions directly. Brad's always, he's a very big advocate for he won, let's see your plaque. You won the biggest recruiter, I think, for the PCA. What was the award exactly?
The Member Recruitment of the Year. I won that at
Expo.
Won it at Expo. It was Nick Slavic, I think, the past 8 years. He's got an unfair advantage, man. He tours the country recruiting people for PCA.
Pretty unfair,
I had to do it a little more grassroots. But no, I'm really proud of that. I am a huge believer, as you know, in the PCA. Without the PCA's influence on the people that I trust the most within our industry, Ellison Painting would not even be in existence. So the PCA is a worthwhile organization. You should absolutely become a member. You should absolutely be plugged in. There's tons of resources, whether you want help training your painters, whether you need training through the Business Accelerator program, whether you want to get plugged in with other local painters. There's the gathering of local painters groups. And of course, the annual expo is, in my opinion, one of the best weeks of the year in the Ellison family.
Love it. Well, Brad, thank you. Thank you for everyone who joined us. Super excited for this. The recording, if you tuned in late, will be live in the Facebook group, and super excited, man. Super excited for the series. We'll have you on again toward the end of the year and get a check-in on Ellison Painting.
Right on, Brandon. Thanks, buddy.
See you guys. If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast.
Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.